To see you all here today. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Bud Taylor. I became acquainted with Bud Taylor at Montrose High School when he was a senior and trying to figure out his path in life.
Still trying to.
And he really has been true to his path all along. He's a lifelong Montrose resident. He was one of the first Boys and Girls Club members when they opened. He was a member for several years, became a staff member, and in 2006, he was selected Youth of the Year for Boys and Girls Club. After that, he left Montrose for 4 years, went to Colorado State University, came back to Montrose, went to work for the city, and also became a board member for Boys and Girls Club. And being community-minded and giving back and doing for others has always been part of Bud's MO. He, while working for the city and being on the board, was in a position that when the director at the time resigned, Bud was selected to be the director of Boys and Girls Club, and that was 3 years ago. So he served in that position for 3 years. They're doing really exciting things, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you Bud Taylor.
All right, so I thought I'd switch up my presentation a little bit from just all about the capital campaign and what we're doing, and I wanted to really share with everybody here just that story of where I started, where I was, and where I began. So the club started in 1999, and I was one of the first club kids, and so there's just this great wealth of history that I've got stored somewhere else in my brain, and my bookkeeper has the 10 years that I wasn't with the club. So we have a really good kind of oral history of the club. The club started at Montrose High School, and we found out about it because my mom saw it in the newspaper and said, great, my kids are gonna go there. I didn't know anything about the club, my brother didn't know anything about the club, and so we just went. We didn't know what to expect. There was just a group of kids about our age, and we just had fun that entire summer. And I remember the club was only a half day, and so it's a lot different than what it is now. But the club offered limited programming. And so one of the things that I remember were some of the staff members. I don't remember what this guy's name was, but he reminded me of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Same color hair, same haircut, had a little scruff on his chin and everything. And some of you may remember this other staff member, Nick Hagan. Nick was very unique because he was Asian. There weren't a lot of Asians that I knew of in Montrose at the time. But the other thing was, he was this hardcore punk rocker in a band. And so he would come to club with his spiked mohawk. I mean, it was this tall. And it was just, he was somebody different that you didn't meet every day. And you might see him and kind of be like, wow, what's this guy's story? Like, what's going on? And he ended up being one of the coolest guys around. And so that was just one experience at the club that helped me understand, don't judge a book by the cover. Anyways, so this great story. Nick and Shaggy get together, and they said, we're gonna take the kids out and play kickball. And so I get chosen on Shaggy's team. I'm shortstop, he's third base, so I get this whole view of this incident. And Nick is on second base, there's a kid on first base. This little kid, he goes up, they roll the ball and he just kicks it. And of course, when you're that young, you don't have great control over the kickball, and the ball goes right down the line to third base, right where Shaggy's at. Shaggy comes up, grabs the ball, and holds it up to get Nick out, right? So he just comes up like this. Nick thinks, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna jump over this guy because he's bending down. So this is probably the first time in my life that I've seen one staff member drop kick another staff member. I mean, it was fantastic to see that as that kid. I was like, oh my God, and I'm right there, I'm seeing the whole picture. This is great for me, it's a great day. Putting on my executive director hat, I'm going, oh my gosh, what just happened? The parents, the liability. But for all those kids, it was amazing. So one thing that I forgot to mention is summer of '99, I actually graduated, 5th grade. So I was moving on to 6th grade, and at that time, all the elementary kids went to Columbine, and then they went to junior high at Centennial. And so the club moved from the high school to Columbine, and it was cool because now all of a sudden I'm starting this whole new transition along with club being transitioned. And so I go to school, and then right after school, I just walked to the cafeteria, and all my friends were there. All my friends that wanted to stay after school. We just hung out, we played Pokemon, there was Magic the Gathering, there was all sorts of stuff. There were very, very few elementary school kids, so wasn't a lot. There were mostly 6th and 7th graders, and some 8th and 9th. Some of those kids would walk from Centennial over. And one of the things that really stuck out to me at this point in time was there was October, where I was Youth of the Month, and the staff were just really good. They were kind of secretive about it, but they'd come up to me and, oh, Bud, what's your favorite snack? What's your favorite movie? And oh, well, I like this movie, and Fruit Gushers is my favorite snack, and X, Y, and Z, right? And so, being calendar deficient as I am, I don't realize what day it is. It's the Youth of the Month day, and all of a sudden I see my parents, and I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Because it's 4 o'clock, they should be at work, and with the straightest face, my mom goes, oh, we got a call from club and you're in trouble. So you better get to that meeting, boy. And I said, okay, I'll see you later. And so then that was the month that they said, okay, you're Youth of the Month. And it was really cool because they pulled out my favorite snack. They pulled me aside and said, we couldn't find your favorite movie, so we got this one instead. And it was just awesome. It was kind of like my own special birthday that wasn't my birthday that I got to share with everybody. So chapter 3, the bumps. Every organization kind of has their growing pains, their bumps. And we just saw, even from a kid perspective, there was poor leadership. Our first executive director had left. They had hired a site director, and she was plagued with health problems. She had migraines all the time. And so it was really just different because then the junior staff just kind of ran the program. And you have little kids running little kids. It doesn't always go so well. Some of that admin was non-existent in that point in time. And in fact, we had issues of embezzlement going on. But it's good because we got some of the right people on the boat. We were able to right that ship. And so they hired, I remember her name was Angela. She was the site director of Montrose. And one of the things she did was she hired my good friend, Brian Kesey. He was the program manager. And so he would really work with all the high schoolers and get stuff going. And I remember there was one time where Brian pulled us all aside and said, guys, I don't know what you look at me, but I don't like going to Walmart. If you think I like going to Walmart, you've got the wrong picture of me. And we said, okay, well, what exactly do you mean? And he goes, you need to plan out your programs. So this was actually the first time in my life that we actually had to program out what we were doing for that week. So that way people weren't going to Walmart every day or going shopping and wasting time on that. Soon after that, Brian became site director and said, well, you've been volunteering a while, why don't you come on and be part of the team? We were like, oh, I get paid to be at Boys and Girls Club? This is awesome. I really like that. And so I got a great story with Brian. As some of you know, I got a younger brother, Matt. He's about 2 years younger than me. But everywhere I went, Matt went. Everything I did, Matt did with me. And by that time, it was getting a little annoying because I wanted my independence. I was kind of that independent guy. And just one day at work, I just lost it. I said, Matt, get away from me. Why don't you go do your own thing, go find your own passion, this is mine. And not exactly my proudest moments, but it happened right in front of Ryan. And Ryan was there, and he kind of canceled his program and pulled me aside and said, what's going on? And I just said, Matt, he just follows me everywhere. He's this thorn in my side that I can't get out. And he goes, no, don't look at it like that. He's not a thorn. He's looking up to you as a hero. And that's what he wants to do when he grows up. He's learning from all of your mistakes, which there were quite a few mistakes, by the way. And it really shifted my thought process as to what was going on and how that affected my life. So then after that, Megan Farley joined the team. So, chapter 5, graduation. So this is about the time that I was graduating in 2005, 2006. So at that point in time, the club actually didn't have enough cash to keep some of the junior staff afloat. And so we actually had layoffs. And so that was the first hard conversation that I had with, that actually was with Megan. And she goes, we have to lay you off. You can't come into work. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she goes, we can't pay you. You're not getting a paycheck anymore. Because again, I've never experienced this. The club's my first job, so I'm like, oh, okay. So I go home and I talk to my parents, and we really thought about it. We thought, what's going on with this? How do we handle this? And I asked my parents, I said, can I make a deal with you? Can you guys pay for my paycheck? Which all my paycheck went to gas, so we just buy my gas. And I said, okay, what are you going to do with your time? And I said, I don't know. As any high schooler says, well, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And that wasn't good enough for my parents. And they said, okay, this is what you're going to do. We'll pay for your gas, but you go and volunteer back at the club. And so we would go back. And that next day, Megan pulls us aside and says, what are you doing here? Do you guys have something wrong with your ears? And we said, no, we're clocking in, but we remember our old kid numbers. My staff number was 90095. My kid number was 100166. Still remember them to this day. That's not made up. Those were my numbers. And so we came back. About a month later, we were able to get back on the paychecks and use my staff number again, so I was happy about that. End of 2006, I was chosen to be Youth of the Year, and that was a pretty big honor for us. And it was really big for me because I remember it very vividly. We were at the Turn of the Century Saloon. We had me and I think one other person competing from Montrose. We were competing against two wonderful girls from Olathe. And somehow I just squeaked it out. I don't know how, but I squeaked it out. And it was just fantastic to work with certain people. There was one lady who I worked with quite a bit. Her name was Regina. She was the power hour person. And I just worked so much with her on this, and we got it. And with being Youth of the Year, I was actually old enough that we went to Denver. And that was actually the first time that I'd ever been to Denver before. And we were right kind of near 16th Street Mall. And that was the first time you go and you see the skyscrapers. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is cool. It really was a good experience. When I got back, I was going off to CSU, but one of the things was I'm a first generation college kid. And Megan Farley was there, and I said, Megan, can I have 10 minutes? And she goes, yeah, sure, I'll give you 10 minutes. And I said, what's this with college? What's that with college? And she goes, look, that's longer than 10 minutes. So this is the deal. We're both gonna sweep, we're both gonna mop, and you have time to ask all these questions. So for about a month, that was our deal. We sat together, asked all sorts of questions, I got all sorts of answers. And so she was really kind of my college mentor, because I couldn't ask my dad. The internet wasn't great, YouTube really wasn't strong in that time frame, so it was a lot of just word of mouth. And I remember the one thing that I really asked her was, Megan, how do I do laundry? And she goes, well, you separate your whites from the darks. And I go, no, I get that. But how do I do laundry? Like, where are the facilities? Do I pay for it? What's going on? And she says, oh yeah, you get a bunch of quarters and you go downstairs to the machine, and it's just a quarter machine. But when I got there, that was the only thing that was different than what she said, because it wasn't a quarter machine. They had it all on cards and swipers, and I was blown away. But again, 2006, and that's when I graduated high school. So that kind of ended my career as that staffer, that frontline person, being at the club. So really quick, the college years, attended CSU, got my degree in microbiology, and found a job working for the city of Montrose, so I came back. But there were about a period of 5 years where I wasn't involved in club. So I really asked, where is club? Where is it being held? Because I knew from my history that club moved around a bunch. I didn't know where the admin office, because before it was at the above the Daily Bread, and it had moved as well. So I didn't know. I would read the newspaper and I'd say, well, who's Youth of the Month? And there was this kind of fear in me that just asked, is club still around? Do we still have a club? And if so, what's going on with it? And so one of the things that happened was Bill Bell said, for all city employees, we want you to volunteer. And so of course I said, great, I'll volunteer. I'm going to take the first thing that comes my way and get this done. But what is it? And so CASA had actually reached out and did the Montrose Wine and Food Festival. And so I went, helped out, set everything up, and I show up, and with volunteering and showing up, they actually gave us a ticket to the event. I said, oh, cool. So I walk in to get my little wristband, and lo and behold, who's standing there is Megan Farley. She grabs me by the arm and pulls me over to the existing executive director and says, Martin, here's your new board member. Doesn't ask, doesn't do anything. So that was a good board orientation right there. All right, so one of the things that I've learned being on the board of directors is we have a high turnover in executive directors. And so a lot of these people would come in, they'd kind of get their feet planted, and then they leave. They wouldn't progress the club very much. There wasn't any movement going on. It helped me understand the governance perspective and where that line is between the board of directors and then the executive director. But one of the things that I was very, very impressed with was the fact that when I was a club kid, we had about 30 kids every day. We're now seeing about 100 kids every day. When I was a club kid in the summertime, it was run half days. Now in our summertime, we're running full days with breakfast, lunch, and a snack. So it was really like this program had grown in my absence, and it was doing fairly well. So then Martin left. He actually had a grandchild. His father had passed away all in like 2 weeks. So he moved out to Reno, and as we know, I became the ED. And so one of the things that I initially thought of was, what are the problems that we have? What's different than when I was in club? What made club special to me? And of course, we didn't have a Youth of the Month. And one of the other big things that I found was we don't have a home. We still don't have a home. One of my dreams, way off in the future is an endowment. But the biggest crime that I saw that we didn't have, the kids weren't having club experience. They were having the babysitting experience. And that to me was just not okay. So, Now, what is the club? Let me show a little video for you guys.
What I love about the Boys and Girls Club is one, the fun stuff, two, the fun education. You could do art.
I like to hang out here, and it's like my second home.
This place kind of feels like family.
Welcome to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Larimer County. We're so excited that you're here today with us at our Loveland Pulliam unit. The Boys and Girls Clubs of Larimer County started in 1986. We have 4 different locations in Larimer County. We also have additional summer sites because of the high need in the summer. The mission of the Boys and Girls Club is to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, responsible, and caring citizens. Every year we serve 3,000 youth in Larimer County. Some of them are from very different backgrounds. Some kids are homeless. Some kids come from dual parent households. We become a central location for kids to interact with each other from diverse backgrounds. Welcome to the Boys and Girls Club tour. This is the games room of the Boys and Girls Club, which is usually the heartbeat of our building. This is sometimes the loudest and most chaotic room, but what kids do in here is they get time to play games, learning how to take turns, learning how to play fair. A lot of times when we talk to kids who have come to the Boys and Girls Clubs in the past, they talk about the friendships that they made in the games room at their Boys and Girls Club. And if we walk this way, we'll go to the art room.
I really like it here. My favorite room is the art room.
All right, and this is the art room at the Boys and Girls Club. A lot of different activities are going on in here.
I like going here because I get to draw, and this is what I draw in the art room.
In this space, we go beyond just arts and crafts. This space is also about visual and performing arts. So this is our dance studio. At Boys and Girls Club, we do believe that performing arts is a great venue of expression for kids.
Dancing and singing, it's like the best.
We offer dance, we offer theater, we offer performing arts programming, even ballet. We have a great partnership with Ballet Renaissance. So this is our technology center. So in this space, it's really all about building 21st century skills. 21st century skills in the sense of kids learning how to type, kids learning how to navigate online safely.
We do scratch coding, and I am one of the people who enjoys it.
This is our education center or discovery den, and here we focus on helping kids succeed academically. So a couple of programs that we run. Number 1 is Power Hour, so that's our after-school homework help program for kids who need help, get help, working on homework or reading or just building those academic skills. This is our gymnasium. This is a very active room in the club. We focus a lot on getting kids active, getting kids moving. We want to make sure our kids all have an opportunity to move around throughout the day, especially after school. We have sports leagues, we have girls' time only, both competitive and non-competitive sports. So this is our teen space at the Boys and Girls Club. This is a space that's dedicated to youth ages 13 to 18 years old.
We all work together as a team, as Keystone, as just as friends, and helping each other through daily things as a team.
This space for the teens is critical in their lives. This isn't a place that they can be safe. They're not hanging out alone, unsupervised.
I love the environment at Boys and Girls Club. I've been coming to Boys and Girls Club for 5 months. I am 15 years old. So it keeps me out of trouble and off the streets.
This is a spot that they can be themselves, they can develop, they can learn about things, but in that safe and supervised environment.
It really helps me stay out of harm's way, like outside of the club. Like teenagers, we deal with peer pressure or bad influences, and coming to the club, like it helps you stay away from that. You can come to it's like a safe environment.
What's happening every day at Boys and Girls Clubs are relationships that are built between kids who might not have otherwise come together.
I love the Boys and Girls Club because I'm able to make a lot of friends.
I have a lot of friends here.
The work that's being done at the Boys and Girls Club is so important, and we can't do it without community support. We encourage everybody to get involved with their local Boys and Girls Club. Come volunteer, come take a real tour of the club, come get to know our incredible kids. Great futures are truly starting here, and we need your help.
All right, so that's kind of the cool thing, you know, get you guys into the club without having to deal with 100 screaming children, right? And that's very similar. Larimer County has a very, very similar program to what we have here in Montrose. We just don't do it to their scale. I think they said they have about 6,000 kids that come in, and we have about 600 kids that come in. But a lot of their programming and skill building things are all the same for us. So, I think one of the things that I did gloss over is the fact that we have 100 kids every day in Montrose. The fact is, that is our building capacity. We just can't get any more kids in. And one of the things that you saw and heard me talk about as I was a club kid, I didn't talk about the programs. I didn't talk about how junior chef changed my life or how kickball changed my life. I wanted to talk about how staffers changed my life, how people changed my life. And when we're limited by the number of people and the number of kids that we can get in the door, we're just not serving our community that well. And so really, what's going on now is the future. What we're doing is we want to build a new facility for the Boys and Girls Club. We want to quadruple the amount of space that we have. We want our own dedicated home. That way, when people leave, when kids leave and come back and say, I remember being in this room and this was my first code that I wrote here. And this is the place that I now get to work for Google because of this place. Or, you know, I'm on the Denver Broncos, maybe third string, but I'm still on the Denver Broncos because I practiced football here. So that's kind of one of the So, you know, what makes the Boys and Girls Club so great? You know, we've got Megan Farley on the very far side of things. We've got Melissa Bauer, who was our first executive director. We got Amber Whaley. She was one of the most influential staff when I first started. And of course, Brian Kesey, who pulled me aside and told me to pull my head out of my butt multiple times. But again, why does this matter? You know, it matters to kids like Drake, who have the world's longest chocolate straw at club, and that record has not been broken. You know, it matters to these kids, and it matters to Cody here, who's never seen a blue leprechaun, but he wants to see a blue leprechaun for the first time in his life. It matters to kids like Elijah, who have won their gingerbread house, but we were not fast enough with the camera, so he started eating it. You know, it matters to Diego, it matters to Jacob and Raul. These kids are part of our junior chef class, which we have a chef from Crash Burger come in and teach them how to make healthier choices. And so this is a day that they were learning how to make Crash Burgers. You know, it matters to the kid who shows up to Montrose High School or to Centennial or Columbine for the first time in their life, and they're deaf. And they're having a hard time making friends because no one knows American Sign Language. Except for these two girls who took American Sign Language at Boys and Girls Club. Matters that kids from Centennial and Columbine can come together and be friends, so when they go to high school, it's not so awkward and weird, because Lord knows high school was a problem for all of us. You know, it matters to these girls who are taking an engineering class or a STEM class, and they're learning how to build a giant house with gumdrops and toothpicks. You know, so it matters to Brooke, who's a junior staffer. It matters that this is her first job. She's getting to understand what real life is all about, to clock in, to be held to standards. I mean, this isn't just free time. You know, it matters to Cadence, who shows up to club, who has fun with her friends. You know, it matters to April. You know, April is their mom. She doesn't have to worry about her kids being in trouble. They're safe, they're at club. We're doing all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah, that's why this matters. That's why this makes an impact in this community. All right, and that is my presentation about the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm more than happy to talk about our capital campaign, but any questions?
Why don't you, before we get to questions, go over your plans, the location?
Perfect, yeah, absolutely. I'll just kind of move this over here. Thank you. All right, so
Can you shut the computer off?
Yeah.
I think just hit, okay. All right, so we actually have purchased land at the corner of 6700 Road in Niagara. And we are currently at 6700 and Sunnyside, so we're just right down the street. So one of the things that we had to look at our different lots and around town was, does it meet 3 criteria, including, do the buses get there? Is it within a certain school zone? Because Johnson Elementary has a higher number of kids who need meal assistance, and so we can be that headquarters to provide meal assistance and thus offer it for our own kids. And is it affordable? Can we afford this? And so, this site really fit our criteria. It is 6 acres with water rights, so we're very happy about that. Let's see, so one of the things that I talked about is our square footage being about 4 times the size. We use about 4,400 square feet in the church, and this facility is about 18,500 square feet, so it's a lot bigger. We don't expect to see a 4 times multiplier of kids right on the first day, because that's just crazy. We need to grow strategically with the number of staff, everything like that. But then we also have the buses to worry about, making sure the buses can handle all the kids coming to club. Let's see. So, as you saw with Larimer County's video, they have their own dedicated teen area. At our current site, we have a little 20 by 20 room, that's our teen area. It's not fun, it's not great. So what we've really pushed is to have this whole space be dedicated for the teens. Have their own lounge, have their own classroom. They've got their own little patio gathering space. And then they've also got access to this music room. And if anybody has kids who are in music, we all know it's not the funnest time when you're in 6th grade and the kid is learning how to play music and they're getting every other note wrong and it just sounds horrible, right? So now they have a place where they can practice. But we also wanted to take it another step further. We want them to record their music. We want them to record podcasts. And if we've got all that set up, let's just record videos as well so they can have a place where they can make just their little YouTube videos that they want to make. They can have their channels. They can do all their stuff. We've got a dedicated tech lab that goes from 12 computers up to 30 computers. So we're going to definitely increase the number of kids and helping them learn about online safety and not just clicking every little box that comes up, which, by the way, they do that. They think they know it all. We're going to have a dedicated kitchen to help out. We're going to run our junior chef program. We're going to run any other programs. And if people like Valley Food Partnership, they're interested in partnering with us and having a nice teaching kitchen so that way people can learn how to cook. And not just kids, but adults as well. We'll have a dedicated youth games room. So that's all of our younger kids, our 1st graders through 5th graders. They'll be hanging out in here. They've got their classrooms. We've got a very large arts and crafts classroom. And I think one of the things that I'm like super excited about, and it's kind of crazy, but we have this little tiny room here, and it's called our quiet room. And what we're seeing now is we've got about 7 kids who have come to Boys and Girls Club who are on the autistic scale. They've got autism, and every once in a while, they just get overwhelmed. And they need a place to decompress. They need a place just to relax and bring them down. And so we have incorporated a quiet room for them. Yeah, I mean, that's some of the big roll, 30,000 feet deal with this.
What's the outdoor classroom?
Outdoor classroom, so that could be, you know, a lot of times kids like to just go outside and learn about something. You know, unless it's a specialized thing that we have to do in tech lab and in arts and crafts. But we have certain groups like the conservation group, which goes all over the property, and they'll pick up trash at our house. And then we'll go to, like, let's say Fox Park, they'll do conservation work there, and they'll go all over the place. And so that can be a classroom where they learn about conservation skills. So they can just pull free time out there as well. You know, they want to just draw. A lot of kids just like to color and draw. Great. You want to go outside and do that? Let's do that.
Questions? We'll use the mic.
What are your plans for the gymnasium? Are those, is it gonna be a multi facility? Does basketball, volleyball?
Great question. So yes, it is going to be kind of a multi-use facility. We just have the basketball lines set up right now, but we do plan on having it being a multi-use facility. So this is the size of a middle school gym. So one of the things we did was we asked the rec center, hey, you know, when you guys have big tournaments coming into town, what size of gymnasium do most of these tournaments go to? You know, if we want to expand some of these services that Montrose can offer, it's a little hop and skip away, but we now have a fourth court that tournaments can utilize if they need to. So, but yeah, basketball, volleyball, whatever we can get.
Hey, Bud, two questions.
Yes.
One is, what are you going to do with the rodeo running through there? And number two, what about the roundabout that will be there, you know, several more years from now?
Great question, great question. So, yes, the agricultural drainage ditch, we actually went out to the Army Corps of Engineers, and they are allowing us to pipe it, so that will all be piped. Just when we had these drawings made, that wasn't completed yet, so we didn't want to give a real false indication of what was going on. With it being piped, there's a bunch of dirt right in this area, and that's all going to be pushed right into that arroyo, so it's going to be nice and flat over there. Your second question dealt with the eventual roundabout, so that is something that we went to Scott Murphy, and our friends at Dowell worked with us on this plan, and when that roundabout comes in, they'll be able to take this big chunk of land. We've already planned for that, so when the city wants it, they can come get it. So, you know, we thought it'd be better to do that versus putting a building all the way up into the corner and messing with stuff. So that was kind of our thought process.
So Martin, the Boys and Girls Clubs provides a real asset to the community, I think, as far as providing a family environment for those kids who don't have a family environment at home. So my question for you is, how much is this going to cost? How are you going to finance it? And for those people who do invest, what kind of return on their social return on their investment are you going to get?
So I can answer some of that, but I'm going to have my good friend Lori jump in, and she can answer some of it as well. So.
Hi, so I am I'm a partner with the Boys and Girls Club, and one of my jobs is to bring in money, specifically outside money from grant funding, but also working with them on this capital campaign on how we're going to bring this to life. So the budget is between 3.5 and 4 million, and the way it's broken out is we're looking at raising approximately 1.1 to 1.3 in grants from outside the community. We are looking at a long-term USDA loan, which really helps take the payments down for another approximately 1 to 1.2 million. And then we are fundraising locally for about 1 million plus in cash and in kind. And so to date, we've raised almost 650,000 toward that goal. So we're off to a great start. We just launched in May at the Food and Wine Fest. And so we feel confident that we're going to be able to meet our financial goals. And again, you know, one of my big jobs is to bring in that outside money, so outside the community. So every dollar we raise inside the community helps me to go do my job and get the outside money brought in. So the other question on return on investment. So one of the things that I think is really important to know is there's a 2-year wait list right now for kids to get access to this club for most age groups. And I'm a parent. 2 years doesn't work for me, right? It probably didn't work for you all. Many of you are parents. It probably didn't work for you when your kids were young. And so that's the main return on investment, is that building will allow us to be able to say yes. So when they call Bud and all of a sudden somebody says, oh my gosh, I just got a job. I finally got a job and I need after school care for my kids. And when they call Bud, and right now he has to tell them I'm sorry, he can now say, yes, we can start you tomorrow, no problem. So that's the return on investment. And you know, Bud mentioned it can quadruple the amount of kids, but we're not going to open quadruple immediately. That's quite frankly a financial situation. We will at least be able to double off the bat, and probably in the summer do at least triple. But one of the things Bud didn't mention to you is that 10 to 15% of the budget comes from fees. The rest comes from fundraising. It comes from the Food and Wine Fest and the Crab Crack that they're doing this weekend. It comes from local donations, and it comes from grant funding outside the area. So we need to make sure we scale up smart so that we can keep the doors open, going, and do responsible programming. So that, I hope that helps. But we do know the community is growing. If you look at the statistics on the growth projections, this building will be able to say yes to these children, not no, I'm sorry, 2-year wait list. Does that help? Did I answer all your parts?
What's the total projected need, or capacity, or need in the community for this? You're talking about.
I don't know if we know the total need. I will tell you that we have a 2-year wait list, and a lot of kids don't even get themselves on the wait list.
You know, that's a difficult question to answer. Springboarding off Lori's answer, when I take a phone call probably once every 2 weeks personally. This doesn't include my staff, so personally I take a phone call about once every 2 weeks. And maybe 20% of those phone calls end up with an application into the club. So we have about 80% of those phone calls find something else, go somewhere else, take a chance. The other thing that we have to take into consideration is some of the licensing factors. We just had 2 child care facilities close. During that point in time, we had 6 calls a day, on average. I mean, just every day for probably 2 to 3 weeks. Parents were calling, trying to get their kid into club with the same answer. We had to give everyone the same answer. We have a 2-year wait list. And again, I don't think it works. So the projected need is huge out there. Boys and Girls Club is a answer, but I don't know if it's necessarily the answer. Good.
But do you have an idea how many students this 2-year wait list represents?
Yes. So on average, I think it's about 50 kids. It's about a 2-year. And when we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think our wait list was up to 65 kids. So we're almost getting into that 3-year period. Part of that is 65 doesn't sound like a big number, but we have such a slow turnover of the kids. Once they're in club, they tend to stay in club for years. So
There was a question back here, but what is the fee?
the fee, I'm at Lincoln.
160.
The fee is about $160 for the entire school year. So that includes our summertime and to the summer. Right.
It's nominal.
Yeah.
And if somebody can't pay if they come in with a true hardship, they are not turned away. And that's where a lot of the grant funding goes, is to help support those families and keep it affordable.
Oh, well, yes, Bud. Say, I always notice in my exercise club that the people who really need to be there aren't there. You know,
That's me.
like, there's people who really need to be in church, but they're not the ones who are there, you know. So do you have some sort of outreach to try and reach the kids who could most benefit from being in the club? You know what I mean? Maybe you could address that.
It's a struggle because you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Some of the kids who need us most aren't getting it. But I also think we're looking at that term, need us most, in maybe a one-dimensional context. A lot of times when people say the kid who needs us most, well, those are the poor kids, right? Well, that's not necessarily true, because we have, you know, doctors who have a single kid, but that kid doesn't have the social skills that they need to grow up in this world. They've just been sheltered, or they've only had contact with very few, and so they don't have those social emotional components that they need. And so bringing those kids into the club, even though they're not financially destitute or poor in any sense, there's still 100 kids that they need to interact with and get along with. And, so there's those aspects and those pieces to it as well. You know, and with the 2-year waiting list, sometimes it's the hardest, because if you're poor, who can afford a 2-year waiting list? You know, and that's, you can't. You know,
Well, and they might need it now, not
exactly.
years from now. Right?
Exactly. They need it now, and so a lot of times they try and figure out something, a neighbor, a grandmother, or something, and a lot of times these people move. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
When you get this facility up and running, will you be equipped to handle special needs students? You mentioned autism, but there are many other special needs.
Yes, so one of the things that, granted, when I worked for the city, one of my jobs was to consider ADA accessibilities of the American Disability Act. And so when this comes into fruition, and the other thing is, because we are going after USDA loan, they will make us follow ADA compliance and guidelines. So anything that we do will definitely be looked at, both with mental health, physical health, all those different aspects. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Tell us about your fundraiser Friday night.
I would love to tell you about the fundraiser. It is sold out, first and foremost, but it is called the Crab Crack. And if you're not on Facebook, let me know. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out, and we'll just send out little invites and everything through that. We are at the pavilion, and it's a southern boil. We just dump food on the table, and everyone goes to town, and it's all you can eat. And we have a little live auction at the end, and it's a lot of fun.
But it's sold out.
But it's sold out.
It's
Sold out.
sold out.
It starts at 6 o'clock, just in case you have tickets.
Come see me, I'd be willing to give you my seat. I'll go in the back and steal some crab.
There we go. The partner discount, right?
Dad, please tell us how students get to the Boys and Girls Club after school.
Absolutely. So that was one of the main factors in our decision for finding this piece of ground, which was all the buses have to get there. So every day after school, there's an assigned bus, and all those club kids jump on it and get dropped off to the club.
So school buses, not parental bringing them?
No. So the only time we have parental bringings is during the summertime. And so during the summertime, we can expand our number of students that come because of that. We're thinking the buses are going to have a limiting factor initially.
You may have said this, but when is your projected, opening time?
We hope to start construction in 2021. So we hope to start construction in 2021. It's going to be dependent on a few things. So one, the cycle is determined by grant funding. We needed the time to hit the grant cycle. So in order to hit our 1.25 to 1.3 million in grant funding, we have to work with the cycles of the grant funders. So that'll give us the time to bring the money in and then start construction. The other thing we'll be working with, there's a tight construction market right now. So when I say 2021, we should have the money by spring of 2021 in order to start construction. It'll be pending construction availability. But our hope would be to open sometime in late 2021 or early 2022. Still not soon enough, but it's the best we can do, quite frankly. If we had the cash, we would start tomorrow, but grant funding deadlines and cycles are long, unfortunately, and so we will have to wait in order to bring the money in to make the project come to life.
So Lori, while you have that microphone, can you explain to the tax credit? Like if you donate in the tax credit, because that's huge for those that want to contribute.
Why, yes, I can, Phoebe. On the back of your flyer, there should be a little graphic on this, but the Boys and Girls Club has a 50% state tax credit available if you donate funding. So if you donate $100, you will get a $50 tax credit back, which comes directly off your Colorado state taxes. So this is like getting $50 cash back to put toward your Colorado state taxes. You also get whatever applicable federal deduction you may be taking, but this is like a way to make your donation go further. And it's because we're a child care facility that we're able to offer this tax credit. Does that help make sense? Okay.
But what about help with academics? I've heard a lot about you have homework help. How does that operate? And do you have staff paid to do that? Do you use volunteers? For a parent, that would be huge to know somebody was there helping their kid with their homework.
Yeah, absolutely. So our main homework help is called Power Hour. And currently what we do is we actually break up the kids into their respective grade levels. And then we have a staff member go in and help those kids. They are high school staffers, and I actually had one staffer who was in high school who actually did his homework at the same time that he was helping the other kids. And one of the cool things about that was he was showing the kids that homework doesn't stop, he's got to do it. And he was just kind of setting that role model example for him to get his homework done. They are all paid positions because they're our first time job seekers. But yeah, we do like volunteers to come in to help out with that kind of stuff. We have, when we're short-handed, sometimes I have to jump in and help out. And I'll take the younger kids. So I'll take the first, second graders, I think. They don't have a lot of homework, so I sit there and read books to them. And it's kind of fun just to sit there and read to these kids and tell them to quiet down and all that fun stuff. But yeah, so we have homework help, and that is one of the biggest things that if homework isn't done, those are the most calls I get from parents. My kid's homework wasn't done. And I see what they're saying because they're at club for a couple hours, they want their homework done, so that way when the kids go home, the parent doesn't have to be the bad guy to get on them about homework. They can sit there and have family time. And that's really what some of these parents just are craving with their kids.
So does everybody do Power Hour?
Yes, Power Hour is mandatory across the board. So everybody does it. If they don't have homework, we have a library of books that they read.
Say, Bud, I've got a 70-year-old friend of mine who needs help programming a smartphone. Can he go there?
If he'll read to the kids first, then we'll trade out for smartphone. Yes. I know we only have a few minutes left, and that was a perfect segue to one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, which is if you liked something you heard today, how can you help? How can you get involved? I was not going to ask for money today because that's not what this is about. I want to ask for you guys to consider some other things. So one, tell a friend. So there's a lot of your friends that aren't here today. So if you heard something today that you liked, please help us share what goes on at Club. We conducted a study this spring with some folks about, before we embarked upon this to say, is this needed? Is this, would the community support this? And one of the number one things I heard was, we don't know what goes on inside that building. So we tried to share with you today what kinds of things go on inside that building, because some people think it's, quote, just babysitting. And it's not. It's so much more than babysitting. So if you saw something today and you have a natural conversation opportunity, share that with some of your friends so they know what goes on inside those four walls. If you're on Facebook, share our posts, like our posts. They post a lot. Some really fun, quirky things. Bud's wife has a habit of dressing up in a Cammy the Crab, sorry, and going around town. There's some funny things going on. So like our Facebook post and share those with your friends. Share your talents and come volunteer. They're always looking for volunteers. Tell us what you're passionate about, and Bud will tell you if he has a role for you. We would love to see, we have a nice active base, we'd like to see more people coming in, sharing their talents with the youth. Mentorship is a huge, huge thing. You heard it from Bud. He told you how important those relationships were. So if you have something and you are thinking, hey, I might be interested, call Bud and come check out the club. No commitment, just come check it out. Come learn, come meet these kids. You'll have a hard time saying no once you meet these kids. Anybody an aspiring board member? We're always looking for fantastic board members. We've got a great board. We'd love to add a few more to it. So if you think that this is something where you're really passionate and you're like, I want to help them grow and make this a reality, consider asking Bud about the board. And again, just think about that. Just coming to visit and meet the kids. Even if you just come twice a year, it'll put a smile on your face, and it'll help you see what they're doing and be able to advocate for us. So I won't ask you for money today because I'm not supposed to. But there's that unwritten thing. Of course we take money. But there's so many other ways to get involved besides giving. So please consider that.
One more question.
I did have a question. I wanted to know, what about screening and background checks on staff members?
Yes. So I think one of the things that we didn't talk about is our relationship with Boys and Girls Club of America. So we actually do not get any funding from them, and they're kind of like the on-high power that tells us what to do. And so we actually have very, very strict requirements for background screenings, background checks, even looking at driver's license and driving records and all that. So it's costly.
Does that pertain to your volunteers as well?
Yes, it does. Yeah, volunteers as well.
I have one more thing I'd like to say. I know you all talked about all you're doing here in Montrose, but you're making a very big impact in Olathe as well.
Yes, we have our Olathe Club, and Tim is our site director out there, and I'm so proud of him because he was actually one of the first youth of the months with me back in back in '99. So yeah.
And the other plug for Montrose County Housing Authority is that they own the facility that Boys and Girls Club is in Olathe, and have allowed Boys and Girls Club to use that facility, and it's a great one. They added a huge commercial kitchen. They have a huge multi-purpose room. It's attached to a number of classrooms. So in terms of site, the Olathe site is situated really well.
And just to add on to that, the challenge, one of the challenges with Olathe is we have space. We have the resources, and we don't have as many kids. We have a huge wait list in Montrose. And so if you have any ideas on how to get more kids involved, that's something that their team is really working on. There's some barriers up there that are different and unique, but we have space in Olathe. So if anyone has great ideas or passion for the Olathe community and wants to help out on that front, there's space for kids, and we want to get those kids that make that need
We'll work
most.
on that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you. If you would